Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 13 Pro just came out, so let's go and compare it against the iPhone 10 and see if it's worth the upgrade. Now, I'm going to tell you, I will leave both of these phones linked down in the description below, so you can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, one thing is for certain, the iPhone 10, which came out in 2017, still looks pretty modern and pretty much the same as the 13 Pro. Now, side by side, the 13 Pro is the bigger one by a little bit. It's also much heavier. You're definitely going to notice the heftiness to the 13 Pro. The notches are a little bit kind of smaller in the 13 series, but you can't really even tell. Even from the video, you probably won't be able to tell too much. But a big thing to keep in mind is that the 5.8-inch OLED panel on the iPhone 10 is smaller than the 6.1-inch OLED panel on the iPhone 13 Pro. But a big thing to keep in mind is that the refresh rates are different. The iPhone 13 Pro now has a 120Hz refresh rate, which is beautiful. The iPhone 10 has a 60Hz panel, still looks good, but the iPhone 13 Pro definitely wins here. In terms of the thinness and thickness between them, the iPhone 13 Pro I think is a little bit thicker, and you probably will be able to tell, like when you kind of press them down like this, the iPhone 13 Pro is definitely the thicker one. You can probably tell over the camera. And on the back, we have glass backs on both, which is great. Now the iPhone 13 Pro does have a frosted glass back, which feels very good in the hand. I definitely do like it. And this one just feels like $1 million phone, but the iPhone 10 still feels like $1,000 phone. Like this one does not feel cheap at all. Now dual camera setup on the iPhone 10, wireless charging, the whole 9 yards on the iPhone 10. The iPhone 13 Pro has that triple camera setup with the LiDAR sensor, wireless charging, MagSafe capability, all that good stuff, a lightning port at the bottom, power button on the side. They both have IP certification, all that good stuff too, so lots of similarities between them. Now the 13 Pro definitely feels far more premium, but the iPhone 10 is not that far behind. Like that's a big thing to keep in mind. This phone came out in 2017, there's a 4-year difference between them. It really doesn't seem like there's a 4-year difference at all. Now moving on to the longevity of both of them, the iPhone 10, like I mentioned, came out in 2017, so this one is just not going to last as long as the iPhone 13 Pro, and that's kind of a given. We kind of expect that, to be honest. Now this phone is probably going to last as long as something like an iPhone 10 is, if I'm being completely honest, but the iPhone 13 Pro, I mean, you can get this phone today. It's going to be supported for many, many more years. So between both, the iPhone 10 is probably going to be unsupported faster than the iPhone 13 Pro, but they're both supported for the time being, so you're really not even going to notice a difference probably for the next like 2 or 3 years, to be completely honest. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both of these iPhones. Now the iPhone 10 has that Apple A11 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 GB of RAM, where the iPhone 13 Pro has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you guys can tell, so let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And definitely the iPhone 13 Pro is far faster there. Music, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 10, a little bit slower. Now, they were on different panels, but I did see that the iPhone 10 a little bit slower there. Let's try the settings app. This will be kind of interesting. 3, 2, 1. And even then, you guys can kind of see that the iPhone 13 Pro, which is on the left, was a little bit faster there. Let's try their app stores. 3, 2, 1. Now, this one doesn't have a network connection, so there's no point even doing it. Do mail. 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro definitely faster here. It's telling me to log into the Wi-Fi. Hopping out of this one. Clock. 3, 2, 1. And again, it just seems like it's a little bit slow on the iPhone 10. It's like a noticeable glitch for sure. Camera, 3, 2, 1. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the 13 Pro here, although it's kind of difficult to see. Now, as always, we have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go and kind of get into. Let's do Twitter, 3, 2, 1. And again, the 13 Pro is faster here. Hopping out of this one, let's get into Stack, 3, 2, 1. And definitely the 13 Pro is faster, but the iPhone 10 really wasn't even that far behind here. Getting into the next one, let's get into Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And the 13 Pro definitely faster, iPhone 10 a little bit behind. Getting into some gameplay, let's see if there's a difference. And I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference here. Hopping out of this specific app, let's get into the original Temple Run, which I don't even have here. Let's get into Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And the 10 was actually able to be a little bit faster to load into that initial panel, but the iPhone 13 Pro is definitely faster to load into that whole entire game. I mean, there's quite a bit of a difference here, and I think it was probably a smoother experience on the 13 Pro as well. The iPhone 10, we eventually get into it, but that was a pretty big difference between all of them. Getting into the next tab, we can try Netflix, 3, 2, 1. Network connection on the iPhone 13 Pro. Let's try Snapchat, 3, 2, 1. I don't think I'm logged in here, so still the app was faster on the iPhone 13. And I mean, to be honest, we can do 10Q2, 3, 2, 1. But I think the 13 Pro is quite easily the faster one when it comes down to both of these. Even with this specific app, I thought it was going to be close. But still, the iPhone 13 is the faster one. This is the 13 Pro, by the way. I keep saying 13. So what does this mean? Well, essentially, when it comes down to it, if you want a faster phone, you should probably end up getting the iPhone 13 Pro. That's going to be the faster phone between both of these for sure. There's still a lot of capability between them, There's still a lot of similarity in terms of design and everything, but the speed difference is far faster on the iPhone 13 Pro. So if you want the faster phone between these, the iPhone 13 Pro is a better way to go, but the iPhone 10 is still a fairly fast phone. I'm surprised how good this phone is still. So that covers it up in terms of a speed comparison. Now let's go and quickly hit on the cameras. Now in the back, you have a triple camera setup on the 13 Pro, a dual camera setup on the iPhone 10. Now both can do 4K at 60 on the back, which is great, but there's a bigger difference on the front camera. The iPhone 13 Pro can do 4K at 60 on the front, where the iPhone 10 can only do 1080p at 30. Now with the iPhone 10's camera, I've always felt like it was pretty decent when it first came out, but the 13 Pro's camera is far better at this point. I mean, it's just not even fair. Now you have a lot of the similarity, features between them on the bottom. So you have portrait mode, you have, like panoramic mode, all this good stuff on both, but you do now have this cool cinematic mode on the iPhone 13 Pro. So it essentially brings portrait mode for video, and I like that feature a lot. It's pretty cool. Again, I don't think it's a deal breaker if you don't have it, but it's nice to have it for sure. Now with the iPhone 10's camera, I mean, this is a solid camera for sure. I mean, you have that dual camera setup, so you have a wide and telephoto lens, and it takes really good photos still. I mean, if you're outdoors, it's great. Indoors, it's a little bit of a different story. It's not really that great. I wish it was a little bit better, but again, this phone came out in 2017, over 4 years ago, so it's totally understandable. Like I said, 4K at 60 on the back, only 1080p on the front, which is kind of a downside in this day and age. Most phones bring 4K at 60 on the front now, so that's one area you're definitely limited, and you also don't have an ultra-wide sensor like the iPhone 13 Pro has. So definitely when it comes down to it, the 13 Pro is the far better camera here. I mean, you have that ultra-wide sensor, which looks beautiful. You have that telephoto lens, you can zoom in a ton into a photo as well. And you have that really good wide-angle lens as well. So you're really not even missing out on anything with this specific camera. You have a ton of capability. That portrait mode is great. All these capabilities, the 4K at 60 on the front and the back is awesome too. And you're really not missing out on too much on this specific phone. Is it perfect? Probably not. The iPhone 13 Pro's camera is still a solid contender for sure, and to be honest, I'm a fan of this phone. I think this camera is really good and definitely better than the iPhone 10. So now that brings us to the end of the video. So should you go and buy an iPhone 10 or a 13 Pro? Should you upgrade your 10 to the 13 Pro? Definitely going from an iPhone 10 to an iPhone 13 Pro is a very good upgrade. You're getting a lot of capability. You're getting much better battery life. I also forgot to mention that on my battery test, I got much better battery life on the 13 Pro. A way better camera setup, a way better display with that 120 Hz panel, which is perfect. Longer software support, faster phone, more RAM. I mean, this is a solid upgrade. This is everything you would want your iPhone 10 to be in 2021. Now, funny enough, I still think the iPhone 10 could potentially be a better value per dollar. This phone, you can probably pick it up for like $300, probably even cheaper than that. And this phone still has a lot of capability. It's not going anywhere. It's still supported with software. And for the most part, for like the raw features, it's still pretty much the same phone, although you are getting a much better phone on the 13 Pro. So if you have all the money in the world, get the 13 Pro. If you want the best iPhone, get the 13 Pro. If you're strapped on a budget, or if you currently own an iPhone 10, I don't think I would be like pressured to pick up the 13 Pro because the 14 is looking to be like the biggest upgrade ever. But the iPhone 10 is still a solid device still, and I'm actually pretty surprised how good of a phone the iPhone 10 is still. So that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.